On today's show, I get into the third dimension and talk about the new Sony headset. Kees does Vita TV. Gary talks about films of games. And we talk about the games we've been playing right now.
Button bash, gonna bash some buttons, yeah!
Hi, I'm Casey Ryback and welcome to the second, or if you count our special, third episode of Button Bash. I'd like to point the finger in the direction of our two resident guests, Case Cornfield BA.
Howdy.
And future Dr. Gary Smith.
What's up?
You can treat me any day.
I'll treat you good.
Okay, so Sony are planning on releasing a VR headset.
Yeah, what's sort of, some of the specifics about what it can do or anything like that? Or?
There's not too many specifics. I mean, I know it's going to be 3D.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing you still just use the pad as normal.
Sure.
And move around and you keep your head still, but, not like the Oculus Rift that's got a motion sensor. So when you move your head, the character's head moves left and...
They're not doing that with the Sony one then?
I don't know. There's not a huge amount of information on it.
I think it would be better if it just looked around using the helmet and then controlled actual movement with a pad still. Because,
Did Microsoft do something really fun?
But then you've got an issue when you need to turn around and do a 180.
Well, yeah, I guess you could use it in racing games, couldn't you, for looking around the car and things like that? Because, yeah, like you said, in Forza 4...
Yeah, didn't they use their Kinect to
they did.
do something really, really genius?
It was clever. They made a system where you could use Kinect to detect your head movement, so you could turn your head to look out the side of the car, and it would shift the view on the screen. The only problem is that
you weren't looking at the screen.
You weren't looking at the screen.
So it's good for bystanders watching. So.
Yeah, I'm sure to everyone standing by, it looked great, but you couldn't see the screen because you had to turn your head away from it.
Give him a nice big wave, back and forth. Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
Genius.
I did try it out and it didn't work.
I couldn't tell.
It didn't
work.
I couldn't tell if it was working or not because I was looking away from the screen. But I suppose if Sony are bringing it out, I guess Microsoft can't be too far behind with their old one. They tend to follow Sony's lead these days, don't they?
Sony were planning on, I think originally, having it at Gamescom.
I mean, do you think it'd be one of those things where, like Kinect, where it sounded really good on paper and then the actual execution of it was just a big old disappointment? Nobody brought out any good software for it. And
well, hopefully it won't be too expensive because there was that Kinect thing, the Illuminate.
That got scrapped.
Illumiroom's been scrapped because it's too expensive.
Xbox, go big.
Oh, you're not. I don't think you don't seem too bothered about this VR.
Oh no,
business.
I can't stand all this.
I think it'd be good for
crap.
first-person shooters. I mean,
not for me. I'd
It's a
like to
novelty.
just sit there in my pants, and straddle my sticks and play on the TV. I'm one of these
love
people
looking at you in your
stuck
pants.
in my ways.
You just look good in pants.
Oh yeah.
And
oh yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm kind of inclined to agree with you. They come across as more of a novelty.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll probably be quite entertaining to play with for 5 minutes, but
And I don't think there's going to be enough people picking it up to warrant developers implementing it because it's just.
Be good for films maybe if you could watch a 3D film and pop the headset on and you're just completely in the film, you're engrossed. That would be pretty epic. But I'm quite excited. I mean, again, for first-person shooters, it'd be quite cool.
So one excited, two not bothered. They're good odds
Not
there.
excited. not bothered.
Not
excited.
excited.
You couldn't be any less excited, could you?
No.
So, Case, what kind of stuff have you been looking at this month?
Well, yeah, Sony had their pre-TGS conference the other day, and they announced a couple of things. They are redesigning the PS Vita, so it's like a PS Vita Lite, I suppose.
Right.
And they're going to have 6 colours. Their big announcement was they are releasing a PS Vita TV, which is Sony's answer to Apple TV. So it's like all the apps on there, like Netflix and YouTube and whatnot, I suppose. And amongst other things, you can play PS Vita games on there, so long as they don't utilise the touch or camera features. But another thing which I think is really great is that it will be able to sync up with your PS4. One thing which I really hope they implement, I don't know if the PS4 is capable of it, but if you're playing a game or using some of the apps on the PS4 downstairs, then would you be able to still use the PS Vita to play games upstairs?
So will the PS4 be able to multitask
basically,
the two
if
things?
it could do that, that would be absolutely amazing. And it's not even that expensive. I think it's going to be about, probably we'll get ripped off if we ever get it, but it's about $99, I think, for the Japanese market.
But no plans to release it? here at the moment, are there?
Not as yet. They're just focusing on the Korean, Chinese, and Japanese market at the moment.
Speaking of boobies, you were looking at something about Hideo Kojima.
Yes, I was. Well, I thought it was really funny. Hideo Kojima made a point on Twitter that he's gonna. He wants to make his characters more erotic, so it will encourage cosplay of his characters. In other words, Hideo Kojima wants to see pretty girls half naked. But yeah, it's quite funny the way he did it, because he announced it on Twitter, like, on Friday we'll be releasing the high-res model pictures for Quiet, which is the character's name.
Sure.
For people to do cosplay, and it is quite revealing. It's just basically a pretty girl in bra, thong.
I mean, they were too big for a bra. I mean, they were too big.
I think it's pretty based on the actual.
The bra was like
not the most practical outfit for a special operative. I wouldn't have thought, maybe.
In Afghanistan, it's a hot country, you know. I mean, let's top up our tan while we're sniping, shall we?
Yeah, you could be lying on that mountaintop for a really long time. It makes sense, you know. Like,
a mirror thing or something.
Make a holiday of it, you know. It's
exactly.
It makes.
Then she spots her victim. She hasn't got time to grab her top and put her back on. She's just got to go after the victim.
Of course.
With her tits out.
At least you won't have that situation like you had in the first Metal Gear, where Snake's going to have to figure out who the female is.
No.
By watching
the ass war.
It should be fairly apparent.
Yeah. Like, which one's the woman?
It's that one.
Yeah.
They're massive. So I was thinking of a question then, actually, when you were talking about that, was how do you feel that women are represented in games? I mean, and also sexism in games. What's your take on that?
Case?
What do you reckon?
The more boobies, the better. I mean, I don't mind looking at naked women in games, so I don't mind.
Well,
the more the merrier.
Yeah, I mean, you know, of course, you know, we're
you
men.
love boobies.
We're men. We all love boobies. Nobody's going to sit here and pretend that we don't, you know. But I think if they're going to include something like that, it should be relevant. There's no point just these sort of hyper-sexualized characters for no purpose other because, you know, the director wants to see teenage girls dressed up in their bra and pants, you know. He's not mentioned it contributing anything to the story or there being any kind of reason for her to be dressed in that way. The only reason he's come out with is because he wants to encourage people to do cosplay. And I'm not sure that's the best reason for your design choices in games.
He got criticised for it, didn't he, by one of the developers at 343 Studios.
343, Microsoft's
right
cock boys.
Good old go at Hideo Kojima. Oh, and he sort of came out with a response that was like, "Oh, my words were lost in translation. What I really meant was I want to make my characters more sexy." Again, still wanting to look at pretty young girls.
It's kind of splitting hairs, isn't
naked,
it? Yeah. It's a pretty half-assed attempt. I mean, I don't speak Japanese. He could have said something completely different and got away scot-free as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. But no, he chose to say that he meant to say sexy, not erotic. But I think we can see what he meant.
Yes.
I think whatever the exact language he used. But like I said, I've got nothing against sort of. I mean, most the characters in most films and games are, you know, male and female are supposed to be sort of attractive people. That's just generally how it works. You know,
no one wants to look at an uggo.
It helps to create those sort of.
Hi, I'm an ugly toothless fiend. I'm here to fucking rescue you. I don't want to be rescued anymore.
But there's
torture me.
There's a difference between characters that are idealised and characters that are objectified.
Well,
I see your point, but I mean,
I like looking at boobies, but I was saying Jill Valentine was sexy in Resident Evil. She was wearing like military gear. It's you know, they can kind of say things and kind of do things that's sexy.
You can make them sexy without making.
I wouldn't have objected if Jill Valentine was walking around in a bra.
Well, there are certain websites you can go on, I think, where that kind of material is available to you.
Later, I'll have a good 15-minute look at that later on. So, Dr. Smith, what's been buttering your duck this month?
Well, my duck has been buttered when I was reading this article about Rockstar coming out saying over the years they've received numerous offers from production companies about the possibility of making a Grand Theft Auto movie.
Right, yeah.
Which up till now they've declined for fear of sullying their admittedly very good reputation. Yeah, with a inferior film. Which you can kind of, I was kind of
It's understandable.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about the history of film adaptations.
Sullied one of their franchises with Max Payne.
Max Payne, yeah, which was a terror. Did you see it?
No.
It was terrible.
Starring Marky Mark. I like Marky
And
Mark.
Ludacris.
Minus the Funky Bunch, though. No Funky Bunch present.
No.
But they didn't cover they didn't do the story, the origin story, whereas his sort of family gets killed and he goes on the rampage. It was kind of set a few years after that, and I think if they'd made it dark and it could have been another sort of Sin City type film.
Yeah, I think that'd have worked
it
great.
would have worked really well, and they kept with the style of the game, and that's the big problem with the movie adaptations, is keeping with the style of the game. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, yeah, Resident Evil and Doom I was thinking of then, because they're just so different to the game. If they've just kept it, if Doom was about scientists on Mars accidentally opening a gateway to hell and demons pouring through,
there's a movie right there.
The Rock with a double-barrel shotgun blowing demons away.
It's a ready-made movie. I mean, there's
amazing.
Awesome.
There's no more work to do there, is there?
No.
Loads of get yourself a good CGI budget. Have some freaking demons running around. People blowing them away with shotguns and increasingly ridiculous weaponry. Chainsaws, knuckle dusters.
Dildos.
Well,
is it a Saints Row movie?
That could work. Resident Evil as well. Originally, the film was going to be set in the mansion and just based on the game.
Be the story of the first game.
Then they got Paul W.S. Anderson involved, and he brought his wife along. I don't know if they were married then. But.
They keep employing these shovelware directors where they're just crap. Why don't they get a decent director to do one of these films? Instead of getting like Paul W.S. Anderson and Hugh Ball and various other crappy directors.
It's crazy. It's like Resident Evil, as you said. You've got they shoehorn in this Alice character, this superhuman ninja badass.
My name is Alice, and this is my story. I became different, powerful, unstoppable.
I just selected Paul W.S. Anderson, but the first Mortal Kombat
Yeah,
film
I was thinking that Mortal Kombat was amazing.
That was alright at the time.
Mortal Kombat!
Something like that.
Test your might!
I mean, apart from the very blonde and very French Japanese thunder god, it was quite good with the feel of the game, the sort of otherworld tournament, and the way they sort of brought the characters in. It was quite respectful of the series, and
I haven't seen it since I was about 12, though. So
it's still
it could be
quite
shit.
good.
I've watched it. It's actually alright. They did a new series recently, didn't they?
Legacy, I
it's
think
like
it was.
a web
series.
It's really good.
I haven't seen it.
Amazing. Well, it started off. There's a guy who's a really big fan of Mortal Kombat. Made just a 2-minute trailer.
Mortal Kombat Rebirth, wasn't it? That little trailer.
Yeah, he just made a trailer for a film that he wished existed, and then that got sort of picked up and turned into a series online, and there's going to be a second.
Yeah, I was going to say it's been picked up for a second one, so it must have done all right.
Sub-Zero is alive and well and will be at that tournament. You want him? You got him. Leave no survivors. Understand? None.
Hasashi, are you listening? Find Shang Tsung and finish him.
Anzo Hasashi is dead. My name is Scorpion.
Get
What about the anime? The animated films.
They're usually pretty good.
Like the Street Fighter movie was epic.
The Street Fighter 2 one, the manga, it was possibly one of my favourite mangas ever. Like anime.
There's a naughty bit in there, isn't there?
There is, Chinese shoehorn boobies. What do you think of that?
I thought we'd left this issue behind, but 12-year-old Gary loved the shit out of that. That's all I'm going to say.
Now we head over to the surgery, where Dr. Smith is going to discuss the history of GTA.
Oh, sorry, didn't see you there. Hello, and welcome to Grand Theft Auto 101. With the release of the 5th numbered edition in this critically acclaimed franchise just visible over the horizon, what better opportunity could there be to delve into the past and take a look at the games that have brought us up to this point? Now, it can be argued that the story of Grand Theft Auto begins in 1987 with a little-known Atari arcade game called APB, All Points Bulletin. In APB, you took the role of a rookie police officer and had to drive around a free-roaming city, dishing out tickets to litterbugs, pulling over more serious offenders, and responding to the titular All Points Bulletins when they came in. Now, obviously, APB took the perspective of the long arm of the law, but many of the mechanics later seen in Grand Theft Auto were present. You could shoot your gun from a car, you could engage in police chases, you could blow up vehicles, and you could even mow down pedestrians if the mood took you. Then, in 1995, a little-known Scottish software developer called DMA Design began work on an open-world driving game called Race and Chase. They imagined a game in which the player controlled a criminal who was able to move freely, on foot or in vehicle, around a living, breathing Liberty City, stealing cars, killing police, criminals and civilians alike, and climbing the ladder of a criminal empire by performing jobs for various gang bosses. It also had an off-the-wall, tongue-in-cheek humour that played out through radio stations and NPCs. The game was eventually renamed Grand Theft Auto, and DMA Design, well, today they're known as Rockstar North. While Grand Theft Auto received mixed reviews from critics, mainly due to its god-awful visuals and controls, the controversy generated by its subject matter made it a hit with the game-buying public, and ensured that DMA Design caught the eye of Rockstar Games, who oversaw the release of Grand Theft Auto 2 and the swinging 60s-inspired GTA London, which actually took the form of 2 expansion packs for the first game. However, Rockstar was clearly becoming tired of the criticism being levelled at the series for its plain old-fashioned top-down visuals and lack of innovation. Then, in 2001, something wonderful happened. GTA 3 was released, and something had changed. Something had really changed. The viewpoint had shifted into 3D, with the camera fixed behind silent protagonist Claude. Liberty City was once again the setting, but my how she had grown. A 3-dimensional metropolis spanning 3 islands that progressively unlocked. It had cars, trains, taxis, and even a small plane called the Dodo that you could fly if you had the skill to get it off the ground. The criminal-based gameplay and trademark humour remained intact, however, and that, combined with the lush setting, ensured Grand Theft Auto 3 was a critical and public darling, and the future of the series was secured. Not satisfied with this success, Rockstar only waited 1 year before releasing the next instalment. Set in the 1980s in the Miami-inspired Vice City, the game introduced several new mechanics to the series. Helicopters and motorbikes were now available for commandeering, and property and businesses could be bought and used as safe houses or revenue generators. However, possibly the biggest change was the game's focus on narrative. The player character, Tommy Vercetti, not only had a surname, but also a voice provided by Ray Liotta. Liotta later admitted he had no idea how big GTA was at the time, and he would have asked for more money if he had. Ray was not alone, however, and other stars such as Tom Sizemore, Danny Dyer, Dennis Hopper, Burt Reynolds, Danny Trejo, and even porn superstar Jenna Jameson took to the microphone to flesh out the characters in this incredible tribute/parody of 80s style, culture and movies that in my humble view marks the pinnacle of the series to date. Next came the big daddy of Grand Theft Auto, and its name was San Andreas. Set in about half of California and spanning 3 cities that mimicked Los Angeles, San Francisco and Las Vegas respectively, separated by miles of sprawling countryside that included small towns, deserts, forests, mountains, and even a secret military base called Area 69. The game was absolutely enormous. It had aeroplanes, RPG character development mechanics, gymnasiums where you could make your character bigger and stronger, a hunger system where you'd have to eat regularly or become weaker, gang wars, burglaries, casinos, jetpacks, co-op multiplayer, and loads more. Carl Johnson's was the shoulder you were aiming over this time out, a young black man from the ghettos of Los Santos, returning after the death of his mother to make a name for himself. Inspired by 90s movies such as Menace to Society and Boys in the Hood, CJ's quest took him on an epic journey around the state and tackled such issues as police corruption and racism, and culminated in a recreation of the real-life 1992 LA riots, all the while maintaining its much-loved humour and style. And then, for me anyway, it all went wrong. I always loved GTA for its vibrant characters, its bright colours, and its off-the-wall, understated humour. However, Grand Theft Auto 4 tossed all of that out the window, in favour of well-acted but ultimately dreary characters, a more serious and po-faced storyline, and a colour palette of greys and browns. The cars had lost their over-the-top power slide and joy-inducing handling, and now felt like trying to steer a shopping cart around a particularly narrow supermarket. A new protagonist, Eastern European immigrant Nico Bellic, walked like he had shit his pants, was horrible to control, and had none of the character or charm of previous player characters. Combine this with boring missions and having to babysit your idiot cousin every 5 sodding minutes, made Grand Theft Auto 4, although well received by critics and gamers alike, a dreary, depressing shadow of its former self, in my opinion. I couldn't even be bothered to finish it. But that's not all there is to the story. I mean, I've only covered the main games in the series. There have been numerous handheld games, spin-offs, add-ons, and they've all added to the gameplay and lore in their own little way. But over to you, you beautiful people. What have you thought of the GTA series? What have been its highlights for you? And do you hope that Grand Theft Auto 5 returns to its slightly wackier roots? Or maybe you prefer the more serious approach taken by Grand Theft Auto 4? Let me know in the comments section below, and join me soon for a very special edition of my feature Psych, which I think you're going to enjoy. Now, back to the sofa.
So, Dr. Hanson there talking about the history of the Grand Theft Auto series. You like that, did you?
I loved it.
So I was thinking, as per usual, I think we should discuss the games we've been playing right now. What have you been playing?
Well, at the beginning of the month, I played Catherine,
Yeah.
which is, I went down on it too long. I wrote a blog on it, giving my thoughts, which you can check out in the link on the screen.
Yeah.
But most recently, I got hold of a PS Vita, and I've been playing Soul Sacrifice. It's a great little game. It's about a sorcerer who gets captured by an even more powerful sorcerer who likes to feast on my soul. And in the cage, you find this demonic book, sort of like the Necronomicon from Evil Dead.
Groovy.
It's kind of like an arcadey feel. You get rated after each quest, and the better you do, the more spells you get, the more powerful spells you get.
Yeah.
My only slight disappointment was that it didn't use a lot of the PlayStation's
Use the touch screen.
You can turn the pages of the book and stuff using it and things like that.
Yeah.
It didn't use the touchpad on the back of the
yeah.
console
Yeah.
or the camera features, which would have been nice being the first game I've played on it. But it's a really good game, and it's got a sort of a save sacrifice mechanic that's really good as well.
Sounds alright actually. Case, what have you been playing, mate?
I finally got around to playing The Last of Us. Absolutely epic game.
Yes.
Loved it. I won't go into any more detail because I'm sure everyone's already played it.
Sure.
And thanks to the lovely people at Daedalic Entertainment, I've been playing Memoria. It's a point-and-click fantasy adventure game. It's a tale of a princess who wants to become the greatest warrior of all time, hero of all time, and she gets foiled somehow,
Right.
and then she mysteriously disappears, and then 500 years later, you're playing as this other character. He's a bird catcher, and ironically, his girlfriend's been turned into a raven.
Right.
And his quest is to then turn her back into a human, and in doing so, he uncovers the story of the princess. It's a really enjoyable game. It's got a nice art style. It's reminiscent of the old sort of Monkey Island games. It's nice 2D sort of painted style. It's really nice. A couple of things about the sound did my head in, which was when they were speaking, they'd sort of the sound would sort of overlap the last sentence, which wasn't really bad, but it's just noticeable things.
Sure.
The gameplay, like I say, is a point and click adventure game. Some of the puzzles were quite pedantic. Like for instance, one of the puzzles you had to crush up a herb. So you've got to put it in a bird bath and then use the butt of your knife to sort of crush it up. I don't know, logical.
That's how Casey Ryback would do it. Would you recommend the game at all? I mean,
yeah, it's a really enjoyable game. If you are into point and click adventure games, it's great. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was reminiscent of the Monkey Island Broken Sword era games I used to play when I was a kid, and it's really enjoyable. I mean, if you're not into point and click adventure games, I don't think it's not going to change your opinion.
Sure.
But yeah, it's highly enjoyable.
Sleep well, and don't worry. Soon everything will be as it was.
I've been playing Blood Dragon.
Oh, cool.
I'm sure I don't need to tell anyone how good it is.
I've not played it, but
it's everything about it. If you love 80s or 90s action films,
which we all do.
You'd
Starring
absolutely
Michael
love it. Stars Michael Biehn, who is an absolute boss, and the music's amazing. It's got that kind of 80s feel. If you love Terminator, Commando, Predator, all of those types of films, if you're an Arnie fan,
Sure.
You'll absolutely love it. I haven't finished it. I've just kind of played an hour or two. But I'm sure most people have played the demo maybe, but it really gets going after the demo. The demo's good, but it really gets interesting after that. And if you love Far Cry 3, you'll love it as well. But it's just, I can't think of anything bad to say about it.
I love the way he reloads his shotgun in it, because he sort of spins it around like...
Oh, he throws the shells into it.
And then he like cocks it like Arnie in a Terminator 2.
That sounds awesome. I'm definitely going to check that out at some point.
It's so good, yeah. And you can customise your weapons as well. And apparently you can add another... You've got a shotgun, but you can add another 3 barrels. So a quadruple barreled shotgun with explosive ammo. So bring it on.
What else do you need?
Exactly. It's epic. So, we've covered VR headsets, we've covered Hideo Kojima and his erotic/sexy women, and Grand Theft Auto. So I was thinking we should head over to our question of the month competition. As always, Mr. Smith, Dr. Smith, your question first.
Not yet. Of course.
You told me you were a doctor when you were... No, sorry, your question.
I was sticking with the GTA vibe, I reckon. I've gone through the series, and you've got GTA, Grand Theft Auto 2, Grand Theft Auto London. Of course, there was Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, San Andreas, number 4. Now there's number 5, which should be out.
Yeah.
And obviously all the handheld games, the spin-offs, the add-ons, all the rest of it. And each one's trying to bring something new to the table in terms of either style or gameplay, which led me to think sort of what hasn't been done yet. What would you like to see in the next GTA game? What would you like to be able to do that you haven't as yet been able to?
Nice question, Case.
What time's dinner?
Amazing. So, there you go. There's your question of the month. Head over to, with your answers, over to facebook.com/ButtonBashGames, over to Twitter @ButtonBashGames, or in the comments box below. Also give us your opinions. And also don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And that's it. So, thanks for watching. And remember, I'm just a cook.
Bye.
Button bash, gonna bash some buttons. Yeah.